Hello everyone and welcome to Callsign Charlie Models. Time for another inbox review. Today's inbox review is of the Trumpeter 1/32 scale Su-25 Frogfoot A. The kit total length is 485 millimeters with a wingspan of 444 or 48 millimeters and a total parts count of 893 pieces. So a lot of pieces in this kit. And then of course 1/32 scale, we have some nice box art on the front. Looks like it's flying over Afghanistan right here, and the box art is from Kostal Kav. I'm not gonna try to butcher his last name because that last name is harder than my last name. But going on to the side, we have three different options for markings. We have Russian Air Force Red 10 of Afghanistan. We have the Czech Air Force Su-25K 6019, and then we have the Russian Air Force White 12 right there. And then going on, we have a nice little history about the Su-25 on there, and this is also kit number 02276. And then moving right along to the other side, we have another scheme that we can do. That's the Czech Air Force number 9013 Zabak right there. And then we also have some metal parts in this kit, a photo edge fret on here as well. So I'm going to get this box opened up. We're going to take a look at all the plastic that's inside, and then we'll get started with the instructions. So this box is absolutely jam-packed with plastic, and then we have boxes and boxes in here to help protect the rest of the parts. So I'm going to get everything set up, and then we'll start diving into all the plastic parts. Alright, so starting off with the instructions, we have the typical Tamiya format with the instruction booklet right here, black and white, and we have the legend and a read before assembly on the front page. And then opening it up, we have our parts call out right in here. So all the different sprues, a lot of sprues going on in this kit, and decal sheets. There are a total of 6 decal sheets in this kit as well. So moving on, like usual, we're starting off with our cockpit, getting all of our cockpit parts in. Dashboard, looks like we have a decal to go over for our dashboard, and then our nose landing gear, getting our nose landing gear into the ceiling of the nose gear cabin is what they call it, and then we're getting in the walls and then our cockpit onto the roof of our nose wheel well. After that, we're starting off with our engines. We have full engines on in this kit, which is a nice touch, and then our landing gear bays attached to that, and then we're adding in the engine sponsons right there. After that's done, we're repeating for the other side, and then we're getting our fuselage half together with our cockpit / nose gear well and a couple electronics bays in here as well, and you do have the option of having those doors open or closed. Then moving on, we're starting off with our wings, getting our wings attached and our ailerons, and then we have our flaps and slats going on there as well, and our speed brakes, having the option of having those opened or closed. Then we're repeating for the other wing on that, and then we are getting the engine sponsons attached to the fuselage there, and then our vertical stabilizer with our rudder, getting that all attached along with our horizontal stabilizers and elevators on there. And then we do have a boarding ladder to go on here as well. I'm not seeing if we can have the canopy in the open or closed position. Just has you putting it right here like so. Alright, and then moving on, we have our gun, adding in our gun right here, and then a couple panels that go over the gun and our nose landing gear door. And then we're getting our main landing gear on and assembled right there. Then we're adding in the hatches for our engines. Hopefully they fit properly in the closed position, and then some supports for your main landing gear, and again more landing gear doors on there as well. then a couple lumps and bumps onto the tail section, and then we're starting with our loadout. And this thing can carry a lot of different bombs and missiles and rockets and such. So moving on with our pylons, getting our pylons done, and then starting off with all of our ordnance going on here. This is going to be a few pages worth of instructions for your ordnance because there is a lot to go on with this kit. Continue on, more pylons and more weapons going on here all the way through, and then at the very end we have the typical loadout suggestions on which bombs or missiles will go onto which pylons right there, so you can make sure that you have an accurate loadout when you're doing your loadout on your model. Next up we have our color callouts right here. Nice big painted sheet, not painted but color photo of your color schemes right here. These are some very nice ones. I do really like this one right here, the red 10. I do like that one. The Czech Air Force one also does look very nice with the shark mouth on that and the nice camouflage job. And then we have the one of the Czech Air Force Zabak right here, a nice little camo job at the front all the way through the wings. And then lastly we have Russian Air Force White 12. Again, this one is also very nice because it has the camo job to it, and then it also does have a shark mouth, so that one is looking very appealing for me on that. Then moving on, we have our callouts, our decal and paint callout for all of our ordnance on here. As you can see, there is a ton of ordnance included in this kit, so it's going to be a lot to go through. Alright, starting off with our first decal sheet. Very nice register of colors right here, nice finish on top of it, so very nice decals to go with that. Okay, so moving on, we have our next one. This looks like it's going to be either stencils or decals for our loadout, which again, very nice on the decals. They do feel very thin when you put your finger across the decal sheet, so should not be any issue with any of those decals. The paper does make it look kind of like it's yellowing, the protective sheet, but it's just the paper that it's on. The decals do look fine. Our next decal sheet is for the cockpit. We have our sidewall stuff right in here, and then our instrument panel. Those decals do look nice. Again, I think I'm going to go with the if there's Quinta Studios, the 3D printed decals or a resin cockpit on that, just to kind of busy up the actual cockpit. We have one little decal on this one sheet right here. I guess it's a special emblem for one of the added schemes on here, but the artwork does look very nice on that. Okay, up next we have another decal sheet, and this looks like it's going to be our nose art right in here. Again, very nice artwork on that. Should not be any issue, and the decals do feel nice and thin. So again, very nice artwork on that. Then our last decal sheet is a very large decal sheet, and this one is for our loadout. The other one was for all the stencils that are on the Frogfoot. And again, very nice decals. No real issue with any of them. Well, for the lettering on this, it's just a bunch of blocks. There's no actual lettering to it. Not even Russian lettering on there. So again, that's the one downfall of these decals from Trumpeter, is that even the small print is not print. It's just lines and blocks on that. So one downside to that, even though really not going to be reading it, but it is nice to have that detail when looking at ordnance and such. Alright, so starting off with box A, we have our photo etch fret for our seat belts right in here. decent seat belts, typical Trumpeter thickness on the photo etch. Then we have our metal landing gear on here. Definitely going to help support the weight of this. There are ejector pin marks on the metal landing gear, so you're definitely going to want to file those ejector pin marks down. Then we have the clear parts for our ordnance. No issues seen on that. And then more clear parts for our ordnance. We do have one that broke off, so hopefully it won't get scratched up. And then our canopy clear parts. So let's pull it out of the plastic for this one. Alright, so on to the clear parts. Clear parts do look very, very nice. Nice and clear. No distortion or anything for up close when you're trying to see through it up close. Now when you get farther away, when you pull, I'm up about 2 inches, no distortion, but when you get to about 8 inches to a foot, there is some distortion, but that's not really an issue because you're not going to be seeing anything that far back in the cockpit. So again, some very nice clear parts on that. No seam line down the middle to take care of either. So this is the fuselage side of our engine nozzles, and the panel line and rivet detail on here, absolutely amazing on this part right here. If you can see it, I'm hoping it will show up right there. There we go. For the upper and lower side of the fuselage, or the engine nozzle right there. We have more clear parts for our cockpit right in here. This is our dashboard. Again, looks very nice. You're going to have a decal that goes behind that, so you're going to definitely want to mask off all these little dials in here while you're painting everything up. But again, everything looks very nice on that, nice and clear. Okay, so now we have our outboard sides to the engine nozzles, and again, the rivet detail on here, absolutely amazing on that. No real issues. It's nice and crisp detail all the way through. Even going around this curve, there's no lost detail in the panel line right in there. So again, very nice detail. I'm not sure if we might have to cut these off. Yep, we're gonna definitely have to cut these off to get them to fit, but those are fairly easy to take care of and get sanded off when all done and cleaned up. Alright, so for our ejection seat, there is some very nice molding onto the cushion of the seat back in the back. So very nice work on that. And then for the rest of the cockpit detail looks okay. Typical Trumpeter with the dials, they look decent. Again, probably go with the 3D printed decal on the instrument panels right here. But again, everything else does look fairly nice. So up next we have our rocket pod face, and very nice, hollowed out all the way through. You can see all the way through it, as you can hopefully see in my hand. Alright, so very nice detail on that, and we get 4 of these in a bag. We have another version of a rocket pod for the face of it. Again, drilled out, no real issues with any of that. Again, we get 4 of these rocket pod faces too. And last up in this box is our rubber tires. The rubber does look okay. There's some nice tread detail. There's no sidewall detail on here, but I'm not sure if the Russians actually had sidewall detail on their tires. So I'll have to do some research on that to see if those are accurate or not. Okay, so on to our next box, we have the fuselage halves, and I'm honestly surprised on how narrow this fuselage is. So again, the rivet detail on here is very nice. There's not really very many panel lines to go on this kit, but again, the rivet detail on here is very, very nice, and there's no depth lost when the panel line goes around the curve here. We do have a little bit of a a mold line that runs across the spine right in here, but that shouldn't be too difficult to take care of. It is a very faint one, so you definitely be able to take that down with the sanding stick real easy. There is also a nice little texture to the plastic as well when you rub your finger across it. And we go to the other side. It's pretty blank. There's not really anything that you're going to see inside of here, so no worries on that. And then we have just a repeat for the other side of the fuselage right here. It's actually a little bit of more detail on this side of the fuselage than there is on the other. We do have our step. There is some mold release still on here as well, so definitely want to give your model a good wipe down before you start painting and doing all that, because your paint won't stick that well if you leave that off. We do have a little kerfuffle right in here. We're going to have to take care of that. I'm not sure if that's going to affect the fit of anything, but moving right along, we do also have the mold line that's on the bottom side of this fuselage as well. This one is a lot more predominant than the one on the top side, but again, with a sanding stick you won't have any issue. That should sand down very fine, and you won't have to, it will be gone before you have to worry about losing any detail on that. So again, very nice fuselage halves on that. Okay, so our first sprue is of the pylons, and the panel line and rivet detail does look very nice on here. Just moving right along. We do get 2 of these sprues included in this kit, and I'm hoping that you can see some of the detail that's included on the kit right here. Okay, and this is another double sprue of pylons right here. Again, very nice detail on the, you can see the bolt detail, rivet detail on there, so not too bad on the pylons for injection molding. And another double sprue of weapons. Again, very nice detail on these weapons. Some nice detail on the fins with the panel lines. There's no rivet detail on those fins, but again, the rivet or the panel lines do look nice and crisp. Not too deep and not too shallow on those. So very nice on the ordnance for that. And yet another double sprue of ordnance going on. Again, very nice. I'm not sure if these are the rocket pods or what, but hopefully we have the corrected faces for those rocket pods, if that's what those are. So again, nice panel line detail on all these rockets and bombs. I'll let you guess what we have next. It's another double sprue of ordnance, and again, very nice detail through here. I'm not sure if that's flash or supposed to be there. It is on both of them. It looks like it's flash on there, but again, real easy to take care of. Some nice detail molded into these pieces right here. Hoping that will show up. Okay, so the camera won't pick it up, but there is some very nice detail on that. Right, there we go. So, do have a, I'm not sure if that seam line is supposed to be down the middle of that either, so. Alright, so on the previous sprue we got 4 of those, and then on this sprue as well we get 4 of these. So these are all of our air-to-air missiles right in here. The rocket fins, or the missile fin tail right here. You can get this in resin, and these are actually drilled out for that. So definitely want to look into getting that for this kit, at least on these missiles. Alright, finally, not another ordnance sprue. So we have our wing tops right here, and again, the detail on here, absolutely amazing with the rivet and the panel lines. There is a very nice texture on the top and bottom of these wings. It's not too smooth, but not like like a sandpaper. It's just a nice little texture to it. And then the panel lines and rivets on here, I'm hoping that will pick up on the camera, as you can see right there. And we get 2 of these sprues, of course. Okay, so moving on to our next sprue. This is of our vertical stabilizer, it looks like, and our horizontal stabilizers and flaps and all that. And there is some mold release agent still on here, so definitely going to want to give this a wipe down before we start building. And hopefully yours doesn't have it, but mine definitely has a lot of it on here, so definitely going to give this a wipe down before I start building. But as you can see, the rivet detail on here and everything is just like the rest of the kit. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, so on to our next sprue. We have some electronics bay detail right in here. Again, very nice detail on there. Add some wiring in there and that will actually look on spot. So moving on, the landing gear wells, not much detail to it, just a couple of cables and a box going on in there. And then for these, I don't know what these pieces are for, but there's very nice detail, some nice grill detail right there, hollowed out as you can see. So very nice detail on that. We flip it over to the other side. There are some ejector pins on the reverse side of here. I'm not sure on if you're going to be able to see that, but again on this side too, again not sure if you're going to be able to see that. On the reverse side of the electronics bay, ejector pins, but you're not going to be able to see that as well. And then ejector pin marks on this bay. But on your electronics bay doors on the interior, there are no ejector pin marks for any of them. And on your landing gear doors as well. So again, some very nice detail on that. And ejector pin placement as well. Alright, so on this sprue we have pylons and more ordnance going on. And this is a double sprue, so we get 2 of these. Again, nice panel line and rivet detail on your pylons as well. Alright, so we have another double sprue of ordnance and fuel tanks. So again, a lot of ordnance included in this kit. Probably the same amount that the Russian Air Force has right now. Okay, this is another double sprue, and these are our slats and our flaps on here. And again, nice rivet detail going through on your top end of your slats. And then on your flaps back here, we do have some very nice rivet detail on that. And then we flip it over to the other side. You do have some ejector pins. You have a little bit of a flash, so you definitely want to take care of that before you try fitting it, because that will throw off the fit of that slat on the kit. So you get 2 of these sprues as well. Alright, and then this sprue is of our exhaust cans right here. 1 piece, very nice. No seam lines down those or no ejector pin marks. And then of your landing gear hubs, your wheel hubs, again very nice. And it looks like we have the option to have the landing gear in plastic or in metal. And then we have the nose wheel guard right here, again very nice, very nicely molded right there. And we flip it over to the other side. You do have an ejector pin mark, but you're really not going to be able to see that because the wheel is going to be in the way. As for the plastic landing gear, I'm not seeing any ejector pin marks on any of the landing gear stuff. Alright, this sprue looks like to be our cockpit stuff right in here. So we have some decent detail on the sidewalls right here. And then the cockpit floor, no detail to it at all. And then we flip it over to the other side for the back bulkhead. We do have a little bit of detail on that bulkhead, but not much. We do have some ejector pin marks on the hood that goes over the ejection seat right there, so definitely going to want to take care of those just to be safe and make sure they won't be visible in any way, shape, or form. Okay, up next we have our engine screws, and we get 2 of these. So not much to go off on the engine, but you are going to have a bunch of little parts to add onto it. And then we flip it over to the other side. We see our fan blades for our engine. Again, very nice on detail on those. Nice and crisp, so they will take a wash and dry brush really well. So again, very nice detail on those. Okay, and then on this sprue we have our what looks to be our engine hatches. Again, very nice rivet detail and hinge detail on these engine covers right in here. And then more detail parts for your aft landing gear wells as well. And then for the flight deck or the nose landing gear well, a little bit of detail in there. Not too bad. And then on the inside of your engine hatches, again, no ejector pin marks. Very nice, and they are so thin that I can literally see the shadow of my finger through the plastic. That's how thin this plastic is. So some very nice detail on that right there. So very impressive. Okay, so this is the last sprue, and we have our engines all the way back, the exhaust, or it might be the intakes right in here. We'll have to see when we flip it over. But the landing gear doors, again, no ejector pin marks on that, on either these or these back here. Let me get my finger right there, and there is some nice rivet detail on that as well, as you can see. Then we flip it over to the other side. And actually on these intakes, there's no ejector pin marks, and there is a ton of rivet detail in there. So that is a very, very nice touch on that. Really do like that detail to that. And then a couple other parts that go along here. I'm not sure what these are for, but there's some nice detail on the edges of that. Then again, on the other side of your intakes, again with the rivet detail. I'm hoping that the camera will pick that up somehow. As you can kind of see right there. But yeah, so very nice detail. I haven't seen rivet detail inside of an intake before, so that is very, very nice. Alright, so that does it for the Trumpeter 132nd Su-25 Frogfoot A. And I can say that the kit, the detail on it looks very nice. I am honestly surprised with how narrow the fuselage is. It was only like that wide combined, so I'm very surprised about that. But the kit, I mean, ordnance upon ordnance upon ordnance upon ordnance upon ordnance. You have so many options for that, and also you'll be able to outfit any Russian aircraft model that you do for the foreseeable future with all the ordnance that is included in this kit. I think half of this inbox review was going over ordnance, and we only went over half the ordnance that was included. So that's my one big takeaway from this kit. Everything else looks very nice. The cockpit, a little bit lacking, but most injection molding cockpits are a little bit lacking in my opinion. But we'll have to see. The color schemes on here, I do like a few of them a lot. We'll have to take a look and see what we do on here. But again, very nice, well done by Trumpeter on this kit. I'm hoping that the fit is as nice as what it looks. I know Trumpeter, their newer stuff is great. Their older stuff is kind of hit and miss, and I think this is right in the middle of that window. So we'll see how it goes. But I really hope you enjoyed this unboxing, and I hope it answered any questions that you had, or it helped you if you're on the fence on if you're going to get this kit or not. Anyways, until next time, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment down below, especially if you've built this one before. And until next time, have a great day, stay frosty, and happy modeling.